Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. This episode of my podcast will focus on the well-known right-wing project called 2025. Now, I am not an expert in 2025 by any means, but I will include a link to the official project. It's a PDF file directly below this video, so you can read the thing for yourself. I tried making sense out of it, and I have some idea. The problem is I really don't have a background in political science, and I think political science is really a better field for understanding Project 2025 than the sociology of religion or social theory. But I will attempt to provide at least a couple of critiques of Project 2025 right here in this episode. First, I was impressed by how this project has a title and three subtitles. I have never before seen a book with three subtitles. The title is Mandate for Leadership. The first subtitle, The Conservative Promise. The second subtitle, Project 2025. The third subtitle, Presidential Transition Project. So there you have it. The three subtitles of the Mandate for Leadership book. Now, I should say that as a communist, I am not really the object of the critiques that are given in this book. For example, at the very beginning of the book is an attack on what the book refers to as the left. Then in a later paragraph, there is a qualification that by the left, they are talking about the progressive left. That was obvious to me, but it might not be obvious to most other people. People who are not, for example, communists like myself. That was obvious to me because I know what I believe in. I have a general idea of what progressives believe in. They're in the media all the time. And I also have a general idea of what the Heritage Foundation and similar organizations believe in as well. So I was able to attempt to put those things together and come up with some kind of very basic, maybe even elemental understanding of what Project 2025 is. Should say that President Trump has never been in full alignment with Project 2025. Reason, he sees it as being too controversial. So there has always been a dispute between him and Project 2025 for opponents of anything. The best thing you want to see is confusion or dissension on the opposing side. And that is what precisely appears to exist right now in 2024. Now, will that same confusion exist next year? I have no idea. As we have seen from Trump's previous administration, President Trump is a creature of, best way to say it, persuasion. And whoever he is surrounded with seem to have an ability to persuade him. And then when he is around other people, they may persuade him in an entirely different way. In other words, Donald Trump does not have any firm political views. Before Donald Trump ran for president, he was a member of the Democratic Party. I don't know how accurate this is, so don't hold me to it, but there is word which has gone around and has for quite some time that Donald Trump said that the reason he was running as a Republican and not as a Democrat for the presidency is because he did not think that Democrats could be easily fooled. Whereas apparently he did feel that Republicans could be easily fooled. And at least he seems to have been right in having been elected the first time. Based upon Joseph Biden's poor debate performance in the first debate, of course, there is one more debate to go. At least there is one more scheduled debate to go. We don't know how Biden will do or Trump will do. In fact, we don't even know if President Biden will be in the race for president. There have been a lot of people behind closed doors who have been trying to convince Joe Biden to drop out of the presidency, not now, but when his first term expires, and then to turn the presidential nomination over to someone else, whether that is Kamala Harris or another individual, nobody knows. Kamala Harris would seem to be the most logical choice because the money that was raised by Trump and Harris could go to Harris, whereas if somebody else stepped in, it could not as easily go to them. I think that is a matter of election law. I am not a lawyer. I have never been to law school, and so I am not qualified to comment on that. Basically, I am repeating what other people have said. If that's not obvious, I will simply state it. The criticisms of Project 2025 are manifold. Among the major ones, Project 2025 is an attempt to move the United States out of democracy, or what I would call bourgeois democracy, into a kind of dictatorship, consolidating power in the executive branch of government, basically making it so that the president would effectively be like a tyrant, the undisputed head of the United States. Now, whether that is true, I'm not sure. Again, having gone through the book, I do not see anything which states that specifically, although I do think that it could be interpreted in that way. From my impression, Project 2025 appears to be somewhat vague in parts and more specific in other parts. Maybe more precisely, it seems to be vague in areas that really matter and specific in areas that do not matter quite so much. Another criticism, some people have argued that Project 2025 takes the United States in the direction of a Christian society, a Christian dictatorship, if you will, that Christianity and perhaps Judaism to a lesser extent would be privileged over other religions. There is also an attempt in Project 2025, as I understand it, to eliminate many branches of government, such as the Department of Homeland Security, which was started under the administration of President George W. Bush, commonly nicknamed as W, the son of George Herbert Walker Bush, George W. Bush's father. Well, I said that twice, but you get the point, I hope. So essentially, Project 2025, as I understand it, is an attempt to move the United States in what the writers think is a conservative direction. Problem. Which conservatism? There are many conservatisms. There is neoconservatism. There is paleoconservatism. There is political conservatism, and many more. I am not exactly sure which type of conservatism the writers of this book favor. But if I had to guess, I would say it was a mix of neoconservatism and Christian conservatism. Certainly, the writers do appear to believe that the United States is a Christian country, which is interesting considering that the founding fathers clearly did not. So there is a debate, I guess, which could be had between the founding fathers, who unfortunately are dead, and the authors of Project 2025, who perhaps you might say are unfortunately alive, as to which of those two things are true. My personal view, speaking as somebody who is not an attorney, speaking as somebody who is not a political scientist or even a political sociologist, it does appear to me personally that the founding fathers never thought of the United States as becoming a Christian country. It is convenient for many people on the far right to believe that. It certainly enhances their profile. It does a lot to accomplish their agenda, but I'm not sure if it does so in a seamless way. Another factor, if a new administration, say a Trump administration, is elected, and nobody really knows whether that will happen, although certainly Trump is also leading in the polls considerably right now. I believe the current tally is 6 points, which is by a lot. If that happens, and the Trump administration, let's say a Trumpified Congress, both a Senate and a House, try to implement some of these measures, Democratic attorneys, will certainly take them to court. Now, the highest court in the land, of course, is SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and that court has a significant conservative majority. And so whether those attempts by Democrats to challenge some of the rulings of other courts, of lower courts, will be successful, I think is somewhat questionable. To make it simple, I am not the right person to be talking about Project 2025. I think that should be obvious. I am not an expert in this area at all. It does concern me. Yeah, it does concern me. But what I care about more than anything else is establishing communism, is seeing an end to the First World, especially the First World under the domination of the United States. So whether the United States goes in one direction or another direction is not really that important to me. The United States has been going in a conservative direction for quite some time, but the United States is not the only country to be doing that. Look at what's happening right now in France. On the other hand, we look at Britain, and Britain is going in a more liberal direction. So liberal is kind of breaking the vote in a sense. But needless to say, no one really knows what will happen next year. My main concern is that no one gets hurt. Say Joe Biden or Kamala Harris are elected presidents of the United States, which at this point does not seem to be very likely. But for the sake of argument, let's say that happens. There will undoubtedly, in my opinion, be massive demonstrations, possibly even riots in the streets by MAGA supporters. I think that is a pretty sure bet. Now, I hope that does not happen. I would like to see relative peace in the election next year. I don't think that revolts by MAGA would help put forward the cause of communism. In any event, I don't think that communism will start in the first world anyway, and certainly not in the corrupt United States of America. I think if it starts anywhere, and there is always that big if, it will be in the third world, or perhaps also in the fourth world, or perhaps in places that are both, like Gaza, for example. But in any event, I think that we should all, at this point, keep our eyes open. We are only 4 months away from Election Day in the US. That is a long time in one sense and a short time in another sense. It is a long time in the sense that politics changes very rapidly, sometimes from one day to the next. And so what may be true now, what may be true tomorrow, what may be true next month, may have no relationship to what is true in the political world right now. It is also a short time because in politics, everything appears to happen very, very quickly. I look back on the 6/1 uprising on the Capitol, and it seems to me as if it were just yesterday. I look back on 9/11, and to me, 9/11 seems to me like it was just yesterday. For that matter, and I'm certainly revealing my age, the assassination of President Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis seemed to me like they were only yesterday as well. So, long time, short time, whatever, 4 months, whatever you want to make of that. And we need to be on the guard because a lot of things can happen between now and then. Let me give you my suggestion, and this is only a suggestion. This is based on my reading of Project 2025, and just to put it in a very naive sense, my own reading of the vibes. That's all I can say. I'm reading the vibes of what is happening in the United States, and I suppose in the world at large right now. This is not, in my opinion, going to be a very good year. Next year, 2025, might be much worse. I have never felt this way before, and I want to be extremely careful how I say this, because I am not making a prediction. You can't make a prediction based upon vibes. As a sociologist, I believe in making predictions using statistics, whether regression analysis, factor analysis, path analysis, or something else. But making a prediction based upon my gut, no, I'm very skeptical of that. Why has futurism never become an academic field? Because futurists are usually wrong. Science fiction writers are basically like futurists. Science fiction writers are sometimes right, but sometimes they are wrong as well. Just as science fiction is not in itself an academic field or a science, neither is futurism. And so if I were to make a prediction, I think that I would be engaging in futurism, which is something I strongly disbelieve in. So I do not want to make any predictions. That said, because of my sense of what is happening in the world right now, because of the direction that I feel that the world is moving right now, I can only say that I do not think that the United States is a safe place to be right now. Interpret that as you like. Now, let me personalize it. Am I going to leave the United States? No. Well, unless somebody kicks me out, no, I have no plans of leaving. First of all, I'm old at 68. I have no idea where I'd go. Plus, the place I pick might be even worse than where I am right now. I certainly did a lousy job in choosing to move where I am right now, perhaps the most corrupt area in the United States, the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. So I would not trust myself in picking a place to live. But for other people, maybe. I am not your father or your uncle or your grandfather, and I have no right to tell anybody what to do. I don't even think I have the right to suggest what anyone should do. But based upon my reading of Project 2025, based upon the fact that Joe Biden did so poorly in the last debate, really, Donald Trump, despite his own dementia, crushed him. There is no way of knowing. He may be crushed the next time. We have no way of knowing that. We can only go on the situation as it exists on the ground right now. Again, the United States, to me right now, is perhaps the most dangerous place in the world to be. And if I were younger, say in my teens, my 20s, my 30s, even my 40s, I might consider leaving the United States and going someplace else. Where? I have no idea. Canada, I don't think is a much better option. Maybe it was 10 years ago. Now I really don't think so. No, I would want to go maybe to some third world country. But third world countries are also quite dangerous. And how would I support myself once I got there? So I would be confused even if I were 20, 30, or 40 years younger than I am right now. But I do not plan on leaving. I am going to be here for the duration, whatever the duration happens to be. But just as a word of, I don't even want to call it advice. That would be, I think, pretentious. Just as a word from an old man, put it that way. I do not think that remaining in the US at this moment would be a very wise decision for people who are younger and capable of leaving and working somewhere else. I just don't. Could I be wrong? No. Yes, of course I can be wrong. I'm always wrong. I'm usually wrong. Again, I'm not making a prediction. I have no idea what will happen. All I can do is give you my gut sense of what is happening in the world right now, and particularly what is happening in the US right now. And I became more persuaded of this view after I saw how disastrously Joe Biden, because of his dementia, apparently, did in the last debate. That was something I did not honestly expect. I thought that Trump, because of his own dementia, would actually do worse than Biden. And that's not because I support Biden, because I do not. And it's not because I do not support Trump, because I really don't care. It's simply because of my observations of those two men and the way that I thought the things were leading. And again, as is usually the case, I was wrong. So I am not a good prognosticator. Don't listen to me, but please listen to your own gut. Search yourself. Ask yourself whether you should stay here, or if not, where you should go. Take Project 2025 seriously. Why? Because the far right takes it very seriously. And when the far right takes something seriously, and they have right now, a good chance, even a great chance of winning the next presidential election in 4 months, I think we need to be very, very careful about what we do and what we do not do. But again, please do not panic at what I'm saying, because don't take what I'm saying that seriously. I mean, I'm a retired professor. I'm not a pundit per se. Well, maybe I am sort of now. I hope not, but I might be kind of a pundit, come to think of it. Oh, horrible, isn't it? A pundit? Me? No. Can't be a pundit. Well, maybe I am. Whatever. Don't pay attention to me that much, but pay attention to your own sense. Study the situation. Examine the world. Look at it from your own perspective and make a reasonable, a calm, and a sensible decision, one which aligns with the facts and one which is not made in haste. That's all I can say. So for the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.